All right, Mr. Korsgaden, thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited about this. It seems like a full circle moment for me because just before we get started, I want to let you know the very first day, I started my own farmers agency. My DM, Darla Carruthers, rest in peace. I love her with my whole heart, and I miss her dearly. She gave me this book here, Profit for Change. And from the very first day I opened up my agency, I read it. I have, your power position and your latest book here, Inflection Point. But you made such an impact that this is why it's such a full circle moment. I remember you speaking, as a newer agent. Um, I was lucky enough to have like a front row seat, and you made direct eye contact with me, and it was just like, it was such a powerful one because I was reading your book, and then I saw you speak. It's so powerful. Thank you for all you've done for our agents, and thank you for being on our show here today.
Thanks, Dan. I'm honored. Man, I tell you what, I've been following you closely, and it's a real honor to be on your show today.
No, just out of curiosity, which one would you say makes the most impact, writing the books or the talks you do in front of the agents?
Hey,
I'm
look,
sure they both do, but
they do, but it's a great question to start with. I love being in front of people. I love giving my knowledge over the last 35 years. But people always come back even after that and say, "Where do I start?" So a book is a great place to start, right? Because it's solid and you can create your own roadmap. And that's what I'm an advocate for. I've got a lot of great ideas, but ideas are a dime a dozen, man. Without execution, as the philosopher says, they're delusion. So execution is everything. So it's probably a combination of both. I love the speaking, but the books, they stand the test of time.
yeah, that's true. You could always go back to a book, so that's
That's
great.
right. That's right.
And let's just start from the beginning, okay? Where were you born? Where you raised, and how'd you get in the insurance business?
That's a good one. So I was born in Downey, California, which is in Southern California, as
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. For your listeners, that's in Southern California, right? Pretty much in the heart of it. And my father moved us when I was 5 to Visalia, California, where I live today. And my mom and dad had 5 kids. My dad died when I was not even 6 years old. He died in a car accident.
Oh,
So we remained in Visalia. It was a great place to grow up, great place to start a business. And I'm just really fortunate that I grew up in the community that I did.
oh, sorry to hear about your dad. And what about the insurance business? How did that was that from the very beginning, or how did you?
like
It's always
like most
interesting.
yeah, like
Yeah.
most of my life, Dan, and I'll talk about this today, or as much as you want, but a lot of blessings in my life, a lot of luck, some people call it, I call it blessings. I was blessed to grow up here. I was blessed to get into the insurance business because I wasn't looking for it. I wanted a cool job. I had gone down to Southern California after I graduated from high school. I write music and I play 2 instruments, and I thought I'm going to be a rock star. And it took a couple months, and I came back home after a few months with my tail between my legs and realized I didn't have the talent that I thought I did. So I needed to find a place to really go from there. And so a friend of mine, her dad was in insurance, and he drove a Mercedes, and he was a really cool dude. And I thought, I want to be like that guy. So that's how I got into insurance. It looked good. It just lucked out. I was blessed because I love insurance. I still wake up this morning. I woke up really super early. I was excited to be on your show today, and I just love what I do. So I'm just blessed.
Yeah, no, we definitely are, especially during these times too.
Yeah,
As you see,
without that.
so many of businesses being affected with what's going on, and for us to be able to provide, protection, which is on top of people's minds right now.
Definitely.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. So grateful and thankful that we're in the business of helping people and getting compensated the way we are for it.
Yeah, without a doubt. We are blessed.
So tell me about how the agency ownership experience started. Did you were you working somewhere else first, or did you start off as an agency owner from day one? Or
So I was working, I came back to town. I got myself a job in a retail store, some friends of mine, and that's where I learned to sell, by the way. They were a great family and taught me the salesmanship side of things, and it was in retail. But I knew I wanted to get into insurance. And so another friend of mine his dad was the district manager here in town. His name was Jay Green. He's right back here. And he was my favorite. God rest his soul. And he brought me on. I thought I'd sold him. I went to him. I said, you know, if you hire me, and I was only 20 years old at the time, I
Mhm.
said, if you hire me, I'll make you a lot of money. And I thought I'd really sold him a bill of goods. He told me later when I was successful, he says, man, he says, I know you think you sold me, but I just put you on because they were going to fire me if I didn't put on a new agent. So again, one of those blessing moments. But he put me on. He taught me everything he knew, and he really gave me the fundamentals that I hope we get into today, because fundamentals haven't changed. And he gave me the fundamentals, and then he was a great mentor. He was the kind of guy, when I got bigger than him, he let me go. And he did it with a smile on his face. He was just really excited and happy for my success. And I learned a lot from him every step of the way. And that was a big one for me. He didn't hold me back when I got successful.
Well, yeah. I think even as leaders of our own agencies and DMs too, I think that's a great learning experience,
Yeah,
to have the humility to, let someone go who you actually got started,
right,
to keep growing.
right. I agree.
And the early years, what was it, do you think? And let's talk about the fundamentals, Troy, that helped you have the agency that you did. I mean, what are some key, strategies or philosophies, or like you said, the fundamentals that helped you?
Yeah, so the main fundamental, he had a great work ethic, and I was raised, my mother raised 5 kids by herself. She had a great work ethic. My brothers and sisters all have a great work ethic. So I was surrounded by people that worked very hard, but they also worked very smart.
Hmm.
And I think it's a combination, right? They always tell you need to work smart, not hard. I think you need to do both. And that's how you become a superstar like you are. You work very hard, but you're very smart. You're tactical in what you do. So I got a lot of fundamentals like that, but he taught me how to X date. And I still remember the script from 1983 when it was taught to me. I can tell it to you word for word, the right inflection when I'm talking to somebody. I remember that original script, and we did it, and we had callers working for us. And I mean, we did it right. But I was working by myself. And at that time, the company and the industry wasn't real big on having team members. In fact, they just wanted you to be a salesperson for the company. It wasn't about owning a business like it is today, the way you run your business and other successful people do. So I had an epiphany moment. I talk about it in Power Position Your Agency. And it was when I went into the dentist's office. I was working by myself and I really didn't have time to come in. But the woman who had called me said, hey, you need to come in and get your teeth cleaned, because if you don't, we might find out later you had a cavity. The cavity left unchecked turns into a root canal. The root canal turns into a crown. She gave me so many reasons that I booked the appointment, even though I was working by myself. I really was doing everything. And it was an epiphany moment, because when I came into the office, I noticed there was somebody greeting me as I came through the door, another person answering the phone stand, another person helping the dentist, somebody doing filing. It was just a well oiled machine. But I noticed that day when I went into the office, I could hear the woman who had set the appointment up to clean my teeth. Every person she talked to said no at first. They said they were too busy. And every time she would reply the same way: tooth decay does not understand busy. You need to come in because, and then she would draw him a picture, and she was booking 100% of the people. And I just thought, man, I need to change. And today I call this retool. I need to retool my business. And so I went back and I hired my first employee. I hired that person that the dentist had to set up the teeth cleanings, because, like the dentist, they don't make money cleaning teeth. But if you bring in enough people to clean their teeth, X amount of them got a cavity, X amount of them got a root canal, X amount of them need a referral over to an orthodontist. So, Dan, I ran back and I hired that first person, and I never looked back. I literally started hiring people to replace myself. And I got the 3 things I originally wanted when I got into the business. Number one, I wanted to make more money. Number two, I wanted to have fun. And number three, I wanted less stress in my life. And working by myself, I didn't have any of those. I just was running around with my head cut off. So the fundamentals for me never changed in 35 years of owning an agency. I stood up new capabilities, but I always had that core to make sure that people were sitting in front of me all day long, like the dentist, and it never changed. And I never had a losing season ever.
Wow, that's powerful. That's a
Thanks.
great way to sum it up. Is we need to have, team members. I agree with you. Like, if you're doing this by yourself, it's just not fun, and just
Mm.
being part of a team and just having the camaraderie and, hey, we're on the same mission.
Right.
That's great. And then we just need to have people to talk to. No, you
Right.
didn't hire the exact same person, right? You just hire someone that kind of like to do that job.
Good question. No, I hired somebody, and
Oh,
I,
okay.
and again, Dan, I got to tell you, I was blessed because
Yeah.
the first person I hired was a superstar, and that doesn't happen, right? Most
No.
most most of the time, we hire people and they end up being freaks. Like real life freaks. They don't all work out, and
Oh,
so I
trust
lucked
me.
out.
I
It
know.
was a great experience hiring the first person, and she went on to be an insurance agent, very successful later in her career. And it was a win-win for both of us, but it really showed me if you get the right person on the team, and you've done a masterful job at that, you've got a good team. They don't all work out, but you can mitigate the risk of getting the wrong person if you do some things right.
hmm what are those things you think when it comes to staffing and trying to get it right?
Yeah.
Even though it's an imperfect world and we always never always get it right, but any tips that helped you make that recruiting process or being able to sort out through the interview process if someone's
Yeah.
right or not? Any signs or any things that you could share?
I'm the Reggie Jackson of recruiting, man. I've struck out a lot of times, but I've hit a lot of home
There
runs
you
too.
go.
So look, I'm not afraid to go out on a limb, as the saying goes. That's where all the fruit is. So, but you got to be tactical, right? Because in the beginning, I had it all wrong. I hired based on emotion. They'd say, "I like your office." I'd say, "I like it too." They say, "I like your computer." I say, "It's an IBM. Why don't you touch it? Touch it." You know, and it was just all emotion. And they would say, "I think I could do well here." I said, "I do too. Go ahead and sit down. Don't even go home and take a shower. You're hired." And it was just emotional, right? Because
hmm
sales is emotion. But you got to have logic and emotion. So that's where my sister came in, Sharon. We partnered together in the agency here in Visalia. She had come in and she put the logic in everything. And I knew I needed to be more logical, but she was great at execution. And so we put a system into place. And when I do my hiring recruiting seminars for agents and executives, I tell them it's a process and it's just got to be something you do all the time. Everywhere you go, everybody is a prospect to buy insurance or come work for you someday. So, Dan, with that attitude, I've got a script that I have when I meet somebody. If I think they've got the right two things I'm looking for, if they've got it, I give them the script. Not everybody responds to the script, but the ones who do go into a scouting book. And so, like a pro football team, I got this from a book years ago. If I could think of the author or the book name, I'd give it to you, but I don't remember it. I read a lot of books. But the guy says, think like you're a sports team. Everywhere you go, you're scouting for people in the league, out of the league, in junior college, in high school, and college, and in the country and out of the country. Everybody's a prospect to be the quarterback, to be the halfback, to be the center, to be the goalie. Whatever the sport is, just think of it like we got to replace people or we got to add complement, and we can't do that because if we don't have the right system, we can't do it, because the worst time to try to find somebody is when you need them. And the worst time to try to train them is when you need them. And
hmm
the worst time to try to onboard them is when you need them. So what you got to do is you got to think it all out in advance and get a system into place. And so that was a long way of saying there's a lot to it, but it's one of the most important capabilities that every one of your listeners needs to stand up. You got to stand this up in addition to all the other things you're doing, because you will need more people, either to replace folks that aren't going to make the cut in the future or to add complement to better serve your customer.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more. I almost look at it, and I love the sports analogy because it's so true. Like it's almost like we're college football coaches.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
some people are going to graduate, so Even with all the strategy and everything that's in place and the tactical game plan, like the recruiting part is such a major part of your duty that if that part is not being handled in four
Boom.
years, you're going to be in trouble.
Spot on. I'm going to use that analogy. There's folks that are going to graduate. We're happy for them. We want them to graduate. You know, when I told you about that first person I had as my caller, I was happy when she became an agent. I'm happy because competition is good as long as it's good competition. And she was good. And so I wished her and other people that worked for me that became agents, I supported them 100%.
Great. Uh, Tell me a little bit about and you say your families, everyone's hardworking. What
Yeah.
was for people that have family businesses where they're either working with their siblings?
Yeah.
What are some tips or things that you learned with that experience? Because it sounds like you guys had a great thing working together.
We did and do. And so let me just take you back. My agency here, and I'm above it right now. I don't get commissions, and I don't own the agency anymore after 35 years, but I'm still here. It's a great laboratory. It allows me to understand what's going on in the industry in the
Mhm.
real world. With that being said, people would always say to us, "Well, how do you work with your mom, who worked here for 20 plus years?"
Oh yeah.
Not selling insurance. She had a different function. She was the bookkeeper and did a lot of things behind the scenes. My sister, who was a much better agent than me, Sharon, you know her, and we were all with the same company, right? And then my sister Stacy has an agency still over on the coast, highly successful. We don't own that. That's her baby and her family, but when we worked together, the reason we were successful, I believe, is because we were busy. We never got into arguments because when you're busy, there's nothing to yah about. And so, one of the things I'm all for family business, but I've had other relatives that have tried to come work in the business that go, man, this isn't for me. Insurance just isn't for everybody. So I would just say it's great to bring your family in, but everybody needs to pull their own weight and be busy. And then you don't have to worry about the little stuff. It takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's such a good insight where, being busy solves a lot of the problems.
That's yeah,
When you're not busy, that's when you start thinking about things and start, finding the time to look at things that aren't going well, and it just really cuts out, not having that time to complain is a blessing, So being busy is one of the major things I believe in. You already touched on work ethic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are some activities, Troy, would you say that agents should be spending more time on to make themselves more busy?
Yeah. So look, man, if you cut me to the core, my two latest books you brought up, Inflection Point and Discussion Partner, they focus on the fundamental, the core of seeing people under the right conditions. So the model has changed. And it really has, not just because of recent events over the last year. It was changing, but it has come to a head. And the old model doesn't work anymore. It's about putting the customer first. That means that instead of selling to them every time we talk to them, we've got to offer great service. We've got to offer great advice. And then we earn the right to provide a product solution. That could be a business policy, it could be a life policy, it could be auto, it could be home. And you need to be the gateway to all things insurance and financial services. And Dan, here's what I mean by this. You need to be the gateway because you need to be the first person they think about when they need service or advice, even if they don't have their policy with you. And the reason I bring this up is because most people are transactional, and transactions are okay to bring people in, but you got to get them into the system to let them see that you want to look at everything, that you want to give them the right type of coverages, because the worst time to find out what type of coverage you have is at the time of a claim or a loss. And we only can do that if we have a 360-degree view of the customer and or their business. And I always say the customer and or their business because business insurance, if you don't cover it and somebody else does, they're coming after your auto and home. They're coming after your life. If you don't handle the life person's going to be coming after your business insurance and your auto and your home. And I know this to be a fact because all the companies are trying to figure out how to surround the customer with products and services, providing transactions to get them in I call it getting them into the spider web. But then once they get into the web, we keep getting them deeper and deeper into the web. And there's a benefit for everybody. The benefit to the customer, they've got one place to stop, not 10. They don't have four CPAs, they have one. They don't have five doctors, they have one. They don't have 10 attorneys, they have one. Now, each one of these professionals has expertise partnerships and relationships. So if you need something special in the law, like you need intellectual property attorney, they know somebody and they bring them in, but they don't send you over to that person. They bring them in, they partner with somebody. And that's the way the business is going. So all this business that we've worked hard for all our careers, whether you've been in the business 5 years or 50, you want to keep that good business, but deepen it by having everybody think of you every time, even if they don't buy, regarding service and advice. Then you'll get the product solution offering and you're going to win more than you will if you're just trying to sell price.
Yeah, absolutely. Service comes first nowadays. Well, it should have been always, but especially
Agree.
nowadays where
Agree.
information is so available to everybody. Um, you know, and everything is so transparent in this world now.
Agree.
That we have to just look out for the best interests at all times.
Right.
And when you do that, it comes. The sales may they do hopefully come later, but
You're right.
looking after their best interest, and offering them what are some ways where you feel like for agency myself, like how would it be the FFR you think to deepen that relationship?
Yeah. So I believe the review is one of the cornerstones, one of them,
Hmm.
that the fundamentals don't change, right? And so we're seeing a lot of carriers that are getting a hold of us now going, hey, we want to update and stand up a new review process. They're spot on. And the reason is the only way for you to get a 360-degree view of the customer, where they work, where their kids play sports, where they worship, are they on any boards, what is their charitable giving? All of these affect liability limits, coverages, things they need to be thinking about, right? But if we only handle one thing and we don't have a conversation, they call it a meaningful conversation. If you don't have a meaningful conversation, you're not going to have all the facts. That's why you don't want five advisors, you want one,
Hmm.
because there's no gaps and there's no chance of something falling through the cracks because the client thinks they told everybody, but maybe they only told this advisor over here and not this one over here. So the review, to your point, has never been more important. But the review has to be something that's easy for the client that they want to do. And, most agents, firms, carriers will say, we want to offer you a review. And then the client says, well, I'm taken care of. And they go, okay. And they move on. That's not a review system. Yeah, the offer of a review will improve the retention. The carriers know this. Just to send out a letter, it'll improve the retention tremendously. But that's not the answer. The answer is to sit down with the client they want to meet, because the worst time to find out what kind of coverage you have is at the time of a loss. And after all, that's why you buy protection. That's why you do your planning and your financial services and your life. You need to know everything to be able to give them the right type of advice, the type of service they desire and have every right to expect, Dan.
Back to the tooth decay.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
You want to
Oh,
avoid that loss, and
and to your point, Dan, and because you bring up a good point here, back to the tooth decay. If you give somebody enough reasons, the philosopher said, and I bought into this. If you give them enough reasons, they'll do anything. Give them enough reasons to come in to get their teeth cleaned, they will, and they don't want to.
hmm
Okay, come in to update your will. Give them enough reasons, they'll come in. Give
hmm
them enough reasons to do the review, and they'll do the review. And the byproduct is they get what they need, and then we get what we need, which is information. Just remember, if you're listening to me, if your ears can hear me, the one with the most information wins. That's one of the keys to success, and the review is a way to capture that. So thank you, Dan, for bringing that up.
Yeah, we have to give them a better reason, I feel like, as agents, you
Yeah.
know, not only in sales, but going over the coverage, understanding the consequences of not doing the review, more of a stronger reason. And the information, I mean, that's just proven in business now, especially in
It
this
is.
world. The
It
more
is,
information you have, the more data you have, the higher chances of winning.
without a doubt.
So, as a consultant, Troy, what are some things you would say that may frustrate you that some agents have a hard time getting that you feel is, fundamentals?
So, I'm a real believer that if at your core you commit to 4 reviews as a firm a day,
Okay.
2 life appointments a day planned, not flyby, 2 business appointments a day, and 2 P&C, auto and home. So again, it's 4, 2, 2, and 2. And I know for a fact through my work, if you do this, the analytics will show that you will have a certain amount of revenue. And from that revenue, you can take home the money you need for your family and make investments into your agency. On top of that, once you've gotten that done consistently, you can stand up new capabilities. Maybe your company offers mortgages. You could stand that up, but you still have your core, your 4, 2, 2, and 2. Maybe you have a new annuity program. Maybe you have a new life policy. Maybe you have a new specialty antique car coverage. All of those are stood up, but you still got to get your core. You can't go from your core and go over here and then the core falls down. You got to have a real core. So what's frustrating to me is it's so easy, but like the philosopher says, and many philosophers say this, it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. But I committed to that many years ago, even working by myself. And as I replaced myself, I never lost sight of the 4, 2, 2, and 2. We don't sell during a review, but it leads to the other 2, 2, and 2, right? So 4 reviews, not selling, fills the pipeline up. And now I'm seeing more people with more. So I don't want more people with one. I want more people with more. Every household or business has 10 product opportunities in it, every one of them. And so if I get somebody that has 10 versus 10 people that have one, it's the same commission, but 10 people with one line of insurance, that's not a good business model for profit. It's also stressful too, Dan.
Yeah, and it's a lot more work.
Yeah, it's way more work. And the team, once you show the team this, right? You gotta draw them a map and say to them, look at man, if we have 1,000 clients with 4 lines of insurance versus 4,000 with one, it's the same commission. I'll
Yep.
drive the same car. I'll live in the same house. My kids will go to the same school. The only difference is you'll have to answer the phone more if we have 4,000 people with 1 line of insurance. And by the way, put the customer first. It's better for them to have one place to call than it is 4 places to call, or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. You get the idea.
Oh yeah, and again, back to the customer. They save money
Yeah,
that way.
exactly.
You get the multi-policy discount, and
Yeah,
on our end, we improve retention. So it's a win-win, like you said, for both the clients and for us.
I agree, Dan.
I think one of the most important things you said, we already mentioned it, but I just want to repeat. We got to find. This is what I got out of this conversation. Really, for my agency, is we got to give them a stronger reason to make the review. I think the review setup is just too passive. I think we're a little too worried about their time because we kind of assume that they're busy, but we have to believe in ourselves that this is very important for them. And give them the reason.
So, do you want to unpack that just a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think you're spot on, and I think that is common with even the great agencies that we see, and we get to see a lot of them because we work with all the companies. So I'll tell you what I would do if I was in my agency and I really wanted to have an impact. I would double down. And doubling down means that you ask them. I watched Michael Jordan's The Last Dance with my son. He was a real fan, and I had taken him to Chicago to see Michael play back in the days, even in the old house that they had, the United Stadium, I think they called it, but it was awesome. But we watched The Last Dance, and I tell you what I got out of it was, number one, Michael planned hard. I mean, he just was planning and he planned, he gave it his all. Number two, he practiced hard. And, if you watch that series, he practices hard as he did the championship game. He gave it his all. And then last, when he got into the game, he gave it his all. He played really hard. There's a pattern here, a theme, and we need to buy into it. So it's with reviews as an example. We need to plan out the reviews. We need to set them up under the right conditions, and we need to get our people the script, the word track, whatever they need to get the people in. And they're going to say no, just like the tooth decay person did to me. The dentist lady said tooth decay doesn't understand busy, because she knew I was going to say no. Because I'm not waiting at home going, wow, I hope somebody calls me to clean my teeth. It's one of the biggest fears in life, is going to the dentist. But as we think about it, we're gonna ask them as many as 5 times to come in during this conversation. We're not gonna be barking at them. We're not gonna be pushy. We're gonna be persistent, and we're gonna ask them to come in 5 times during this 2-3 minute conversation. And after five, no is no. But the majority of the people want to be led. They don't want to be told, they don't want to be sold, but they want to follow somebody that knows what they're doing. And so, as our team, as our callers, and whoever, you making the call, me making the call, we just can't take no, because it's not good for them if we take the first no and then find out later that we didn't know something. So with that being said, if they say no, and a certain percentage of them will, then we still need to do the review without them in the office. So we still block time for a half an hour. And I take Dan's file and I look at his family, I look at his business with the information that I have, and I do a review in absentia without you there. Then I call back, or the caller calls back and says, hey, this is Dan. I'm calling you up, Troy, because I had a chance to review your file, even though you couldn't come in, and I know you're busy. It's that important. I sat down without you in private, and I got some stuff to go over when you're ready, when it's under the right conditions for you. And I just want you to know you're important to me. Would you like to come in this week, or would next week be better for you? The guy says, no, I'm just really busy. Say, okay, I'll pin you for about 3 months from now and see how things are going. The reason I say this is, you'd be shocked how many people, when you call up and say, I did the review without you in private, in absentia, and I got some things to go, they go, you did that for me?
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden they're going, okay, this must be important. The guy sat down, or she sat down with my file. It's super important. And you just got to tell them when you're calling them, the first time, the second time, how many times you call them, I know you're busy, because they are. So just tell them. That gets rid of the objection, right? I know you're busy and I want to work around your schedule, but it's time to review your insurance. It'll take about 15 or 20 minutes, no more than half an hour if you've got questions. We're not going to sell you anything, Dan. I just want to review the coverages you have and tell you some of the exciting new things that are going on in the insurance industry. Would you like to
Mm-hmm.
come in this week, or would next week be better for you?
Wow. Yeah, that's great. It just shows that you care too, you know.
Yes.
Um,
100%. Yeah,
and who doesn't want to feel like, hey, this person's really looking out for me, spending the time for me, as any business, as a client, like, okay, this person is actually looking at my policy and treating me as a person.
agreed.
So that's really powerful. It's almost like guilting them in into saying yes, because it took the time. But that's really great. Now, what would you say about FFRs over, or reviews over the phone?
So look, let me look at this in a bigger global picture.
Hmm.
Virtual now is accepted by clients, it's accepted by us, it's accepted by the home offices, but we don't want to default to it. It's a
Okay.
great tool. It should be used throughout the year, but I want to meet with the client if appropriate, right? Because of
Hmm.
health reasons and whatnot. I want to meet with them in person. So when the curtain lifts, I still want to meet with them. But there's going to be a certain percentage of the people that say, hey, man, I live 3 hours from you. Or in your case, you live in Southern California. A 20-mile ride could take 2 hours,
Yeah.
right? So, but they're still going places. Like my son lives in Orange County. When I lived in Calabasas, he still came out to LA. He still came out to the Valley, and it was a hike.
Mhm.
But I'm going to tag on something else he's doing to making sure we can do a review if he's a client. So I might say to them, look, and I know you're busy, and I know we're 20 miles away from each other, but are you going to be doing your Christmas shopping at the such and such mall? Are you going to be seeing any family or friends? And we can tag this on. You want to make it easy for them. And so, I will tell you that getting people in is just really not assuming anything, and don't default to video. Don't default to email. Don't default to the phone. In the future, in discussion partner, I talk about holograms. Holograms are coming, right? And they'll come because Tupac and Coachella proved that it can be done. And when it comes, when it's affordable, you'll be saying, is it okay for me to enter into your business? Is it okay for me to enter into your front room? And vice versa. They'll say, can I join you in your waiting room? And we don't want to default to it, because being with somebody is always better. But then we go backwards, then virtual, then phone. So that was a long way of saying, I don't like phone appointments. I don't like them, because I want to feel, I want to touch, I want to get the energy out there. And we can do this a little bit through
Mhm.
virtual, but it's not, you've seen me, I'm powerful, and so are you. And so are the people listening. You're powerful. And that power is belly to belly, face to face, when appropriate. But just don't default. Don't assume people know. One last story, if you'll humor me just a little bit.
Yeah.
When I first started, I had a guy. He was a farming accountant, and we wrote farms back then. We didn't later. And the guy had a big premium. He had a $300,000 premium, which back in the late '80s, early '90s, that's a lot of money.
No, it
Okay,
still is. Yeah.
still a lot of money, but I mean, it was monstrous back
Yeah.
then. And so I hired my first ACR. And when I hired her, I gave her my philosophy. If your listeners are listening, your philosophy guides everything that you do. And my philosophy is, and was, that everybody's money's green. Doesn't matter whether you pay 100,000, doesn't matter whether you pay 1,000, doesn't matter whether you pay 300. Everybody deserves a review every year. Everybody. Doesn't matter how many policies or premium that you have. And I said, so you get them in. They're going to tell you no because they're busy. You work around their schedule. You make it easy for them. That's your job. So one day I come in, and in my agency, everything's pre-planned. So when I walk in, there's a bunch of folders that have all the people I'm going to be talking to and all the discussion pieces I need, because I don't turn on the computer and I don't look anything up. It's all there. I've thought it all out.
Mhm.
So I come in, and there's this guy that's paying me 300,000. He's coming into the office. He lives 45 minutes away, and he's never been in the office in all the years I'd had his insurance. So I come running out to her, and I said, hey, why did you get this guy to come into the office? I said, this guy pays 300 grand a year. If he leaves me, I'm ruined. What are you doing? She says, oh no, you said everybody deserves to review in your office every year. You said it didn't matter how many policies. You said to get them in, it's in their best interest. And by the way, he said he's paying 300 grand a year. He's excited to come in because he'd never been, and he wants to know where all the money's going. That's when a light bulb went off in my head, Dan. Even people that are important, that pay tons of money, they're no more important than somebody that's spending 300 bucks on a boat policy, because they all deserve and have every right to expect great service and great advice.
Boom. They do. I agree with you. They're all our clients. So yeah, that's a great story. Of your staff members taking your philosophy seriously. And how did that review go?
Was awesome. The guy was with me forever and a day. And not only was he a great client, but he ended up being a really good friend. And
Yeah.
it changed the way I looked at my business. It didn't mean that I wouldn't go out to see the guy, but he never had me go see him again. I assumed that's what he wanted. It
Mm.
isn't what he wanted. Turned out he liked coming over to my town because that's where they did all their shopping. He lived out in the country. And it turned out that he liked being away from his office so he could just really open up and talk to me, not just about insurance. But again, it opened up my eyes to see, don't assume, don't default, really talk to people. And, they'll say, have a meaningful conversation. That's important, but have a meaningful interaction with people. That's what they'll remember. It's not the conversation, it's the interaction that you had with them. That's what's going to stay with them forever.
And that's what makes our job fun. We get
It
to
does.
know people, we build relationships, and we're everybody's so different in their unique ways. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's when you assume that people think like you or are like this way because of for whatever reason, that's when we get in trouble. So having the curiosity to really wonder, how what is this person, um, you know, what what are they like? I think that that curiosity of human interaction, I think that goes a long way in our business.
agreed. Completely agree.
All right. Well, what about some painful lessons along the way? I mean, with your experience, I think it's great to talk about what to do, and I'm getting so much, value from what you're talking, the review system. I'm going to totally look into that, my whole system there. But what about some what not to do's that you learned in your career?
Man, Dan, we could talk all day about that. I've written 7 books on the good things I've done. I kid that I could write 21 on the stupid things that I've done. And I've got a friend of mine really encouraging me to write that book. So let me start the process of writing the book by getting it out there. I've done a lot of stupid stuff, but the biggest one was I didn't take care of my health. And I thought that I would live forever. I was a crazy man, and there were benefits to that. I mean, there were benefits to being out there. There were benefits to being out with people, and not taking care of myself. But it caught up with me, right?
Mm.
And so one of the things I would say is when you're looking at your business, also look at your personal life, look at your health, look at everything because it all goes together, right? If your personal life screwed up, it affects your business. If your business life is screwed up, it affects your personal life. And so there is no such thing as balance. There isn't, but you've got to strive for balance. And that means paying attention to the things that matter. And so, and I could choose probably, like I said, 21 subjects, but I'm going to pick this one. Watch out for your health. You only have one body, and you're only going to be on this earth for so long. You're going to be dead longer than you're alive. So you might as well take care of this vessel that you've been given and really take care of it so you can be at max capacity for your family, for your friends, and your business.
Wow, yeah, that's a great one. And you look great, Troy. I
Thank
think
you.
there's a book cover in the back. I think you might look good in that picture, power position your agency.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
No,
As the old saying goes, for a period of time, I was drove hard and hung up wet. So I didn't take care of myself. I appreciate the compliment, but I feel better. I feel stronger than I ever have, and I'm older, and I can keep up or outdo most of the people I know that are half my age. But I think part of that too is Dan is being inquisitive the way you are. That's why I was excited to come on the show with you because I've gotten to know you, and it's not just that you're successful, you're uber successful, but you're inquisitive, and you have that attitude that I have, which is never stop learning. So I love that.
yeah, there's so much to learn. There's really so much to learn, and that's why I'm very excited to have you here too, because I knew there was going to be so much to learn. Um, any Yeah, and back to the health thing, that especially nowadays, and I couldn't agree with you more with what's going on in the world. It's so important. It's an eye opener to understand that, hey, if you don't take care of your health, running a business is a marathon. And I think it was Warren Buffett that said that, hey, if you only had one car for the rest of your life, you'll take care of that car really well.
Good point. And the other analogy that people use is sometimes people that own a racehorse take better care of the horse than they take care of themselves, right? So whether it's a car or a horse. I think there's some simple things. Let me just give you a few hot tips that have improved my life over the last 3 to 5 years. One is hey man, this is one of the greatest tools. It really is, and it's invaluable to our business, right? Whether you're quoting new business, communicating with your current clients, writing more, it's a tool we got to have.
The phone.
We don't want it to control us. So a lot of folks were preaching at me, man, you got to have some space from that thing. And so I don't look at it when I first wake up because I don't want it to hijack my day.
Hmm.
So no email, no phone, no text, no nothing, just silence for the first half hour, sometimes an hour, depending on my mood. And then look, man, after 7 or 7:30, you can't get me on that thing because I turn it off. And the reason is because if I got to have 24 hours to be successful, I'm in the wrong business. I work a lot of hours, but I don't let it run me. I'll post a lot, but I don't look at a lot of feed, right? And so, but I'm looking for stuff. I'm looking for information. If I'm an agent, I'm looking for information on who's buying houses, who's having kids, who's getting married. You can glean a lot of information from social media, from email, from text, but don't let it control your life. The other thing is I get a lot of sleep now, and I didn't used to. I used to be a 3 or 4 hour for many, many years, most of my life. Really low amount of sleep, not good for you. I drank too much. I ate too much. I ate the wrong things. I'm not perfect, man. You watch my feed, and I'll post something that's just god awful that I'm eating, but I only eat half, right? So I might put a burger on there, but I don't necessarily eat the whole thing. So I don't want to preach about health because I wasn't a great example for 50 years. But for the last few years, I can tell you I feel better and I'm more effective and I'm better for all my friends and family because I'm taking care of my health.
Yeah, that's great. And you got to take care of yourself first to be able to take care of others.
Good point.
Um,
Good point.
so that's, yeah, something I'm really happy. And yeah, your work ethic. I mean, you were telling me about your schedule. You got to be in top shape. Not only physically but mentally too. Something's going wrong, personal life or health issues. You just can't run at the pace that the world moves in these days. And I really love your point about using the phone and technology too. How you use it and don't let it use you.
Right. And we've all been guilty, right? We've all been sitting at a dinner table and everybody's on their phone and they're not talking to each other. So I don't want to claim I'm perfect, but the more I get into turning off and giving myself space and paying full attention to the people I'm with, like right now, I I flip this thing upside down. I'm not looking at this while I'm talking to you. You're the most important thing. Your audience is the most important thing. It'll wait. I'll
Hmm.
get done, and even if it's a big fire that needs to be put out, it can wait an hour. It's life isn't going to end just because you don't answer the text in 2 seconds. So again, it's just being in control and not having it control you.
Hmm. And being present.
Yeah.
What are some, speaking of the phone and technology, what are some tools you feel is right now, but moving on to the future too, that could be really useful for agents trying to grow their business when it comes to technology?
Yeah. So if you're listening to me, do an assessment of what you've got. And I don't care if you just have a computer and a phone, do an assessment. What is it? Is it up to date? If you're running an operation like Dan's, you got all these people working for you. You got multiple computers, multiple VoIP or phone systems. You've got multiple cell systems, and we're not against people using their cell at work, but there are boundaries, right? So there are certain things you can do with your phone, certain things you can't, and we trust people as long as they're trustable. And so I'm a real believer in new technology, but not just to put it on to put it on. If it's going to help us be more productive, then we're going to look at it. And then we're going to make a capital investment in that technology back to holograms, right?
Hmm.
That'll come. But I'm not going to be the first adapter to holograms if there's not going to be a return on investment or a return on energy, because money is one thing, but focus, prioritization, energy is another. So what we're going to see in the insurance industry from the carriers, from the marketplace, is more investment in digital, more investment in one and done technologies like customer self-service. And that's a great thing, but it's not going to replace us. So I'm not worried about technology. It speeds up the customer service, which they want.
Mhm.
It makes it more accurate, which they want. And they don't care what kind of computer you have. They just want the information from it. What are you going to do for me with this? And so everything we do with technology, and this is just one of the subjects, it has to be with the thought, how does this affect my customer today? How's it going to affect them in the future? And everything you do must put the customer first. You must put yourself in their shoes. One example, we got all these great technologies. Facebook's awesome. WhatsApp's awesome. Start meeting. Microsoft Teams, Zoom, you and I are on today.
Mhm.
These are all great, but are we going to meet the customer where they want to be met? Because there's 100 different ways. There's not one way. And there isn't one CRM. There isn't one of anything. What does the customer want? And that's where we need to meet them. So part of technology is not just what we need, it's what we need to have to meet our customer where they want to be met for service, advice, and for product solutions.
Wow, that's a great point. And their need and wants change in a rapid pace these days, So understanding what they want and having a finger on that pulse is critical.
Let
That's
me let
great.
me let me affirm what you're saying. You're spot on. So I like this one guy. He's a cop and he's a friend of mine, and he's just always reaching out to me on Messenger and Facebook Messenger. I don't like Facebook Messenger. I don't. It's just something about it I just don't like.
Mhm.
But I said to him one day, dude, why are you reaching out to me on Messenger? And he says, well, they monitor my text, they monitor my email, but they're not monitoring my Messenger. It's private. But that'll change, right? And
Mhm.
so to your point, you just constantly got to be asking people, what do they want? Because most people want to talk to you offline, and their offline is going to change. So I love your point. It's changing constantly. And our job is to meet them where they want to be met, even if it's changed 6 months from now.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Understanding what they want. I think that's a common topic of our discussion here. And I think that's a great point of just, being adaptable and they're the customers. We have to adjust ourselves to their needs. And I feel sometimes agents could get in trouble when they want to do their business on how they want to do it. But although that's important, understanding the customer's needs and want, I think that's very important.
Spot on. Spot on. Yeah. And look, man, as agents, right, we always say, well, if the company would do this or if the companies would do that and da 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 da. Well, look at the companies forever have been saying this is how you buy, what you buy, when you buy, where you buy, right? We're living in an omni-channel world like retail. The customer chooses. And so to your point, as agents, as team members, if you're a team member listening, whether you're employee led or contractor led, doesn't matter to me. You're working with the customer,
Mhm.
and the customer will tell you they have the keys to the kingdom, and they will put the key in where they want to put it. And if you don't, they'll go someplace else.
Yep. Yeah, it's the information world.
It is.
Information age. They
It
have
is.
the power has definitely transferred over to them. But that's a good thing for them, and it's a good thing for customer centric advisors and agents like us.
Yes.
All right. Now the interesting part of your where you are now is the consultation, consulting the big businesses. Um, what are some Well, just out of curiosity, because I do a little bit, I enjoy talking to agents too and
Yeah.
consulting,
Yeah.
any consultation to me as a consultant, as I kind of, I'm just starting to not obviously, at your scale and, but just, talking to a few agents here and there, maybe charging a little fee for, my services, but any advice as a long time consultant?
So I think it's a huge opportunity because agents want information. They want to know how to retool. They want to know how to be bigger and stronger. And so obviously you've got a track record. and you don't have to go out and sell anybody. They just go, I want what you got. So I chose a different path in consulting, and the reason is because I have a very short attention span. So when I do a one-on-one consultation, I just do it for 15 minutes, and there's no expectation from either side. It's just a conversation. So I'm what you're doing is more in demand than what I do. I go in and I'll look at a carrier and I'll look at their whole distribution, the way they pay commissions, the way they market, the way their technology interacts, and it's more global in
Wow.
nature. You and others have a better opportunity because there's more demand for you right now. So it's an easy way for me to say you need to do it, but you need to package it in such a way to where you go, what is it that you want to get out of our relationship, the engagement, they call it in consulting. I'm going to engage with you for 30 days. I'm going to engage with you for 6 months, for a year, whatever that's going to be. And fundamentally, if you just give them your great stuff, I don't know what you charge, but I can tell you it'd be worth it. And there's the way I always looked at it. I went to a seminar many years ago by a guy that was just off the rails. I consider him the greatest business philosopher that I ever met. And it was back in the late 80s and early 80s. And I bought his tapes, and it was $300 for cassette tapes. It was enormous amount of money. And
Mhm.
I told my manager, Jay Green, at the time, I said, I can't believe I'm paying $300 for these tapes. And he says, kid, sell one life policy and you'll pay for that two or three times. And I thought, okay, man. And I bit the bullet and I did it. Sure enough, man, I became a great life producer and never looked back. And so I always look at it like, if somebody wants information, they'll pay for it and they'll get it back 10 times if they execute. If I'd have taken the tapes and not listened to them or applied them, execution is everything. And it's now, right now. It's on the back of my book, my latest book, Inflection Point. Now, right now, not later. Plan it, plan hard, practice hard, and play, execute hard. Do all three of those things. And so, my advice to you is to just be yourself, and whatever you're charging, I have no doubt that it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Troy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it feels good to help, you know,
it
agents
does. It does.
and to make a difference because there's so many experiences that I wish I would have known before.
You know what, Dan? I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody before. I'm going to share it with you. 20 years from now, I'll probably be dead, most likely, or I'll be at the last leg of my
No.
life, right? No, I mean, it's just the facts, right? It's life expectancy. But there is nothing more rewarding than having somebody go, I met you 20 years ago. I read your book, Power Position Your Agency. I applied it, and it changed my life. Now, at first, I was like embarrassed, and I was like, oh no, it's humbling. But I
Mhm.
will tell you this: forget the money. To have somebody say, "Man, you changed my life. You made my family. Our business has never been better, and you had a hand in on that. I wasn't the reason, but you had a hand in on it." I tell you, man, I'm getting goosebumps right now, and
Mm.
and honestly, it sounds silly, but that's what gets me up in the morning. Money is a way to count your success, one way. Because if you make a lot of money, it says that people appreciate what you're doing for them. But the real success is having somebody go, man, I just went through a down point in my life, and I read your article the other day, and you really inspired me to get healthy and to start taking care of myself. That's more meaningful than millions of dollars. It really is.
I it the impact.
Yeah.
I think that's human nature to strive to make an impact. And
Humbling. Yeah.
it's something that you've definitely done, Troy, for us agents. You made a huge impact. I'm one of those agents,
Thank you.
that
Absolutely.
learn from you from afar. So that's why, like I said, this is a full circle moment for me to be have you on my show here. And Yeah, that's the type of things, sometimes we get really busy in building our agency, but I think helping others and trying to make an impact for others, I think that's a avenue that I have interest in. So I think there's a lot to learn as as we go forward. Um, what we okay on time a little bit, Troy?
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. As long as you need.
Oh,
Yep.
really? Okay. Just wondering, what your thoughts on the company side when you consult the companies? Anything that you see that um, what are your fundamentals as far as the company side? Not the agency level.
So at a company level, I got to tell you, the industry has done a marvelous job during COVID-19 and continues to do it. They stepped up before everybody knew what to do. They knew that they had to take care of the customer. I'm proud of our
Hmm.
industry. I can't think of a company that I work with, and I work with pretty much everybody in some capacity, that didn't step up and really give their support, premium dollars, give backs. I mean, you name it. Nobody's questioning the insurance industry. They may
Hmm.
question other industries, but not ours. So I'm proud of that. The other thing I'm proud of is that from a technology standpoint, we were really slow. And everybody knew it. I mean, we were real stodgy and slow, and bringing in digital, but not to the level we should. And it wasn't money. The roadmap just didn't have the time allotted for it. It's not always money. A lot of it is prioritization and time. So you're going to see a real lot of just gas being poured onto the fire with technology. It's not all going to be perfect, but they got to do it because the customer is demanding it. And so, from an industry standpoint, I would tell you this: there's a lot of emphasis and focus on digital and technology, period.
Hmm.
But the focus still needs to be on making sure that advisors are a part of the equation in the seamless distribution ecosystem. The agency firm is not the most important thing, but it is super important. So we can't dictate, well, we get everything and then everything else comes secondary. It's seamless. If the customer wants to enter through digital, they enter through digital. If they want to enter through telephony, a call center, they enter through that. If they want to enter through their local agency firm, they do that, whether they're employee led or contractor led. So, what I see happening now is just a retooling of all the carriers, their alignment to surround the customer with products and services and advisors that offer more than they did when I first started, or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, because what we did in the past should be celebrated. But it isn't going to achieve success in the future unless we have the seamless distribution ecosystem. So I'm super excited. I'm glad to be a part of that, helping shape the future, not just today, but 2 years from now. We're working on stuff that's going to come out 2 years from now. And again, I'm not afraid of technology. I embrace it completely. It's part of what the customer wants, demands, and has every right to expect.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm excited too about our industry, and the direction we're going. Really, some of the things that we did to just adapt during COVID too.
Right.
Sometimes I think bigger companies struggle with changing, but I think it was a good learning lesson from us. And I was really proud of the adjustments that we made to be there for the clients and really be there in a time of need, which is kind of like the whole, way insurance should be viewed as.
Agree.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about too. What about for you personally, Troy? What's next for you?
Yeah, yeah, I like to travel, Dan. Thanks for asking. I like to travel personally. I like to travel with business. Obviously, business, we've got to be super careful and respectful of all our colleagues, our friends, and their family. And I'm excited to get back on the road. I'll do it different. I used to travel for 20 years, 100 to 150 days a year. I won't do it as much. It'll be more calculated. I like doing the virtual. I can do 3 or 4 gigs like this,
Mm.
and not even leave my office or my home. But I still like to be out. So, like next week, I'll be out on the road. But again, it'll be more thought out. I'm not just going to go. and I've got to think out the health issues, not just for me, but for my colleagues, their family and their friends. So I'm super excited about, the curtain starting to lift a little bit, and then using some of this new accepted technology, which I've been using for years, couple of years, 3 or 4 years. And it's just getting so commonplace now. I think people are accepting it. And like your show, people now can really take in a show and see somebody and not just listen to them barking through the audio. They can see it if they want.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that the video communication is getting more accepted, and a lot of
Yeah,
people are used to that and are more comfortable with that. I think that does speed up technology, but yeah, I already see you all over the place as it is now. So I could tell that, yeah, that's definitely a passion of you to be out there, still work, at the pace you're working on. I mean, it's really commendable, the work ethic and the passion you have for the industry and what you've really done, Troy,
thank,
of giving back and helping other agents like us, not just right now, but man, all these years of
thank you.
great wisdom. I really want to say thank you again for taking the time today. I look forward to learning, building a relationship, and learning more from you as
Likewise.
our careers progress. And where can they grab the book?
Yeah, so thanks for that. That can be Inflection Points going into its third printing already. It's only been out a couple months. You can go onto Amazon for a single copy. For bulk, go to Emily at support@korsgaden.com, support@korsgaden.com for bulk, because we can give a better pricing than Amazon. But if you're doing a single copy, Amazon does a print on demand. My publisher is offering, this one is really popular. It's called Discussion Partner. And the publisher has a workbook, but because they're doing the workbook, they give a free copy of the book. All you do is pay for shipping and handling. So I take advantage of that opportunity. And you just go on to korsgaden.com and it'll pop up and it'll say publishers offering a complimentary copy of the book, and you just pay for shipping and handling. So I appreciate the opportunity. I didn't come on today to sell books, but I'm proud of them. They're right now they're in high demand, and people are using the workbook. And we've got some closed seminars that'll be coming up soon from Inflection Point, and I'll give you more information on that as that really pops up.
Okay, great. What's the difference between a workbook and the regular book?
So, when I wrote Discussion Partner, it was controversial at the time. That's about a year and a few months ago.
Hmm.
And a lot of the carriers were like, well, you can't talk about that. And I said, well, it's the way the world's going to move. And it did. It moved quickly. And so within 6 months, it had become very acceptable. And all the carriers, their compliance approved presentations. But a presentation, as you know, if you go to one that's an hour long, you get a lot of great information from me, 7 pages, maybe even 10 pages worth of notes in an hour. But you want execution plans. So the workbook is 270 pages with videos, and it's a
Hmm.
how-to. So a lot of agents and managers and executives are using them for study groups. So you, Dan, might get 5 of your peers together. You all do a study group, taking the 8 modules. So the book was expanded from this little book into 270 pages on really how to, what do I do next? So again, not on here to hawk my books, but I am proud of them. And the Discussion Partner workbook is just off the rails. It's been a real blessing. And I'll look forward to doing the same thing with Inflection Point, but it will all be live. It won't be a pre-recorded. Inflection Point will be a one-on-one with a group of people that are like-minded. This workbook here is a self-study. You can do it with a group or you can do it by yourself.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited about reading, for learning more and reading that book because I haven't read that one yet. So thank you again, Troy, for all your time. I look forward to keeping in touch with you and keep up the great work. And thank you so much.
I'm honored. Thank you, Dan. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. Bye.